Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night After Hours Live. Ask your favorite RCD, your favorite questions. That would be me. So, sorry, I got a little bit of a sore throat. I literally just finished teaching not too many minutes ago, and excuse me. And I seem to have a little bit of a sore throat going on. But, anyways, welcome to the After Hours Live session. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to see everybody. I'm kind of hoping that tonight will be a special night. I don't know, just kind of see. I just had a good feeling about tonight. I did not get a chance to send out invites to this session, so I probably won't have the attendance that I normally have. But, you know, if you're here, you made it here, yay, thank you. Appreciate you being here. As you know, we always start off with every broadcast. What are you drinking? What are you drinking? So as normal, I'm almost done. I am drinking Zevia root beer and water mix. I like watering down my sodas. Just kind of knock it down. Make sure you put in the comment box what you were drinking. And did you bring enough for everybody? I did. What about you? Now let's talk about the acronym challenge. The acronym challenge. As you know, I always like to do the acronym challenge. Oh, hold on, I'm going to start seeing some cutes. Well, hello, Thomas. Hello, Shotzi. Shotzi's drinking Dr. Pepper as usual. And hello, Thomas. Glad to see you. Is that an RC airplane, Thomas? That is pretty stinking cool. I like that. I actually had a RC airplane that I built, 25 years ago or so. And I never got it off the ground. I never finished the project. We ended up moving the house and I got damaged in the move and stuff. But that's pretty cool. I love watching the videos on YouTube of RC airplanes. You see, they make these model airplanes of like C-130s and stuff like that. It's amazing, amazing kind of stuff. And it's a turbine. Oh, that is so. It's got that whistle to it. How do you fly that thing? That thing's got to be like, as soon as it gets over you, it's like almost out of sight range, right? And is that like you have to follow the FAA rules? I mean, like for drones and stuff, do you have to only fly from airports? I'm really curious about that. You got me interested now. So Mark says he's drinking water, kind of warm. Nothing wrong with drinking warm water. I drink it all the time. The key is drink it. Hold on. I got to show you the cable dog cam. Cable dog cam. There she is. And she is behaving for once. That's my cable dog. Yeah, that's pretty cool. One of the things I want to talk about before we do the acronym challenge is I don't know if you noticed, but on LinkedIn last night, I pushed out something. There's always been 3 pillars to the podcast. I've never really talked about it much. It's been on the website ever since I developed the website, but I've never really kind of talked about it. So I want to touch base on it just a little bit. And these are the 3 things that I strive to for every podcast and for anything I do with the podcast. I wanted to, number one, I wanted to educate people. In our industry, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people in our industry who don't want to give out information because for whatever reason, they don't feel like they're good instructors or they want to keep that information close to the vest, whatever. I'm not like that. I have no problems with talking in front of people. I have no problems with teaching. I have no problems with telling you what I know. I have no problems. Educate. You can't leave your learnings in a ceiling like your tools, right? So educate's the first pillar. The second half of that, the second pillar is encourage. So it's not just enough to educate people. I want to be a voice of positivity, right? Yeah, I'm going to see things that are not done right and see things that are wrong. My cable dog's trying to get into some zucchini. Hey, Harley, get over here. You don't know, ma'am. Get over here. Puppies. I wanted to, I've got to encourage people as well, because it's one thing to get the information, get the knowledge, but if you don't give somebody encouragement, there's a chance that they may not apply that education or that knowledge that you gave them, right? So that's the second pillar of the three. The third pillar is enrich. So because I'm helping educate and I'm helping encourage people, hopefully that will enrich their life. It'll make their life more fulfilling. It'll give them, help them be better at their job so they can make more money, provide better for their families, maybe not work quite so hard so they can spend more time with their families. That's my biggest regret as a younger person in the ICT industry. I was so focused on getting to know everything and climb that ladder. I made some sacrifices that I'm not proud of. And one of those is actually, I really wish I'd have spent more time with my kids. Not so much working late, much being on the road so much. That's just one of my things. So that's kind of those are the three pillars: educate, encourage, and enrich. Always been on the website, but I just pushed out last night on all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, a new logo. Well, it's not really a new logo. It's actually, I'm thinking about making. If you think, I don't know, actually, you can see it right now on the screen. I forgot that I put it up there. Yeah. So it's the logo of the channel says, "Let's Talk Cabling" at the bottom, and it says, "Educate, encourage, and enrich." I'm doing some market research here. Let me know if that's something you would be interested in. If I made that available for purchase, for a few bucks or whatever, would that be something you'd be interested in getting, putting on maybe a hard hat or maybe a toolbox or something? Because help me get the message out so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of others, right? Our time on this earth is limited. It really, really is. It really, really is. And again, I want to make that impact. That is made more evident to me every single day. What I mean by that is more and more of people that I've worked with for years and known for years. I'm retiring. I retire next month. One of my good friends from Softing, he's retiring in like 90 days or something like that. I'm not retiring in 90 days. I can't afford that. But just, it makes you realize that you got to make that impact. Let me ask each one of my audience members here today, and you don't have to answer this in the chat. I just want you to answer in your head. How are you making an impact? What are you doing to make it better for somebody, right? So, and I'm sorry. I'll get off that. Now let's get into this. Let's the acronym challenge, because that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about communications, right? We're not here to talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know why I just all of a sudden started waxing poetic. So here's today's acronym challenge. Today's acronym challenge. FCC. FC. What does FC stand for? If you know what FCC stands for, put it in the chat box. What does FCC stand for? And when I'm doing my acronym challenge, I got to do my public service announcement. Help control the acronym population. Have your acronym spayed or neutered. Yes, because we have enough acronyms. We don't need any more. So what is FCC? Somebody, please put it in the chat box. What does FCC mean? Just out of curiosity. I know that I have a lot of people who get into this podcast and stuff are not from the U.S. I got a lot of people from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Egypt and all kinds of cool places. So they may not necessarily know what FCC, because it's a U.S. thing, right? FCC, what's that stand for? Federal Communications Commission. Yes, very good, Mark. Mark got it. Yes, winner. Chicken dinner, Mr. Mark. You get 10,000 points for being correct. The first correct answer. Now, unfortunately, those 10,000 points don't get you anything other than a good pat on the back. Shotzi got it as well. How did I know Shotzi was going to get that? Right? Because Shotzi is a pretty smart guy. I know him through our TDM study group, and he's one of my Patreon members. If you want to help support this channel, go to Patreon, become a Patreon member. And there's other ways. If you go to the website, there's other ways you can support. So I have a few questions to ask first, and then I'll get to in that room. So the first one, again, I'm going to put on my PPE to make sure that the words don't jump off the page and injure my eyes. All right. So the first question comes from Steve. Steve's in Maine. Bet you Maine's beautiful right now. We have a client who's on the 3rd floor and wants a drop in the middle of the conference room. We don't have access to the 2nd floor and power poles are not an option. Any ideas? Wireless? That would be my first. I don't know why. I mean, it's pretty self-evident. If you're worried about bandwidth, you can put a dedicated wireless access point right there in that room, so only the people who are in that room can get access to that. If wireless is not an option, you can do undercarpet cabling. I would really, really shy away from undercarpet cabling, though, and for many reasons, right? Number one reason I would stay away from it is, number one, it leaves a witness line. So when it's underneath the carpet and people are walking across it, as they walk over that carpet, the cable underneath the carpet, it makes that carpet a little bit lighter than the rest of the carpet, so you can tell that it's there. And also, whenever you have undercarpet cabling, it never fails. Somebody puts a heavy file cabinet on it. It's also a really pain in the neck to do moves, adds, changes, because that dog house which is glued to the floor. When you go to move it, you can't move it very far. So I would kind of shy away from undercarpet cabling if you don't have to, because you have to run a flat cable, and they're still, you can still buy undercarpet cabling, undercarpet flat cabling. You can buy Cat 5e, Cat 6 even. I'm not aware of any Cat 6a flat cabling. If you're aware of something like that, put it in the chat box. Let me know. But I'm not aware of any Cat 6a undercarpet cabling. But then you got to have some kind of a transition point. We got to go from that flat cable to a round cable, and that's a splice. That's a splice, and that's not good for cabling, right? A cable goes through a splice, it weakens, and it causes a potential point for failure there. So I would really try to consider the wireless option for that. And why can't you get access to the 2nd floor? You didn't mention that. Is it because maybe the customer doesn't want to talk to the people on the 2nd floor? You might just want to go down there and knock on the door and talk to them, because that would be the best option. Just do a core hole through the floor underneath and then run a round cable down underneath to the closet, come over. That's your best option, I would think, if you can't do wireless. With wireless, your bandwidth is kind of limited anyway, and there's the potential chance that somebody can hack into it. So that'd be my first option, and you may want to do some of that research, because I guess they may not want to do that. The second question comes from Lauren in California, and she says, we are designing an AV, audio video system, for a customer. How many ceiling mount speakers will we need in a 15 by 30 conference room? Depends. It depends. It really depends. What model speaker? Each speaker has a certain area that it covers, right? And you need to know the height of the ceiling. You also need to know, are the people in that conference room going to be seated, or are they going to be standing? Once you know that information, it's really not that hard. It's really a calculation, because it'll tell you. If you look on Valcom and all the other manufacturers, there are speakers. They got the guides. They'll tell you, the coverage area is X amount of square feet. If 15 by 30, right? Well, then what was 15 by 30? So that would be what, 450 square feet. So you take that surface area of the speakers and divide it by that, and you get that thing. And Mark, great point. Thank you. There's a lot of sites out there that have on calculators to figure this out. Now, keep in mind, it's going to be specific to their products, but if that's the product you're going to be choosing, that absolutely might be the best route for you. Right? So that saves you from having to figure that all out, right? So there you go. The next question comes from John in Ohio. John says, Chuck, I am not advancing in my job as fast as I would like, and I want to find a place to go where they will appreciate me. What tips can you give me to help my resume go to the top? Okay, well, first off, I got to ask, have you talked to your company? Ask them, why aren't you? It might be just an oversight, or there might be some development skills that they might want you to get. Have that conversation with them first, because you've already got seniority. You already got time in built there. Don't just arbitrarily just jump. I'll tell you one thing about resumes. When I used to be a hiring person, a project manager who hired, if I was flipping through resumes and I had two resumes, and they both had the same amount of years experience, and they both equally trained, and everything else was all equal, which never really the case. They're never really equal, right? And one person has worked 2 places for the last 15 years, and the other person's worked 7 places in the last same period of time. I'm going to look a little leery at that person who's jumping around every couple of years. Am I really going to want to invest time in somebody who's just going to jump ship, right? So that's always the first thing I'm going to look at. But there might be just something with you. I mean, I go to your boss and say, I would like to have a sit-down conversation. What I want to advance. I want to become a whatever, project manager, estimator, whatever you want to become. What can I do to do that? You'd be surprised when you have that conversation, how it opens it up for you. But I do have some tips. And again, I am not a hiring manager, and I haven't been one for a long, long time, but I do have some tips for you. The first tip I want to tell you is use a professional email. Now, when I say professional email, I don't mean go secure a domain name. Use like Gmail or Yahoo. Do not use, johnqpublic@hotmail.com. It doesn't scream professional, right? Yeah. Also, when you're building out your resume, make sure that the contact information is current. Is that your right cell phone number? Is that your right landline number? Is that your right email address? Right? Make sure all that kind of stuff is current. When you start building out that resume, you want to make sure when you start from the top to the bottom, start with your most recent job at the top, go with your next one down to the bottom. And as you do it, make sure that you left align them so it makes it easy to scan. If you got a tip for resumes, if you're a hiring manager, put it in the chat box. Let's help John out. Like I said, I'm not a hiring manager anymore, but I do have some things. So so we can scan. I was talking to Mark Higginson. I interviewed him for the show, and it just got posted on the podcast not too long ago. And his thing was, he told me he literally spends like seconds when filtering through resumes. So when you have that resume in front of a hiring manager, they don't have time to read your entire resume. Put something on there that's going to catch their attention. Mark says keep it to one page. Absolutely, that's a good idea. I was actually reading an article not too long ago where they said you don't necessarily have to keep it to one page, but when you look at our industry, if you're looking at a resume for a technician or an installer, one page is enough. If you're looking for someone who's got an RCDD and they're trying to use their experience, the projects they've done to gain a job with you, then 2-page probably okay. Don't go more than 2. Also, stay away from putting on their references upon request. That's known. You don't put that on there. You don't just necessarily have to do that. And because I dabble with graphic design a little bit, think twice about the font and the size that you choose, right? You try to use professional fonts like Arial or Helvetica. Don't use Comic Sans or something that just looks kind of childish. Make sure that the font is readable. Make sure it's not all congested, right? You might want to use caps or italics or bold out like sections or stuff. You want to make it so it's scannable. And it's okay to have more than one resume, by the way. Last time when I was looking for a job, when I got hired by my current company, I had more than one resume. And depending on what the company was looking for was which resume I sent. Because I had one resume that would focus on my construction skills, and the other one focused on my project management skills, and another one focused on my certification. So if I got the feeling from reading that job description that they wanted certification, they would get that resume. Now, all 3 resumes had the same information. It was just formatted a little different. So that way, again, it's all about rising to the top. You got literally seconds from when they look at that, right? What is Mark Ross has another tip here for us. A little color helps. The key there is little color, right? You don't want to overburden it with a whole bunch of stuff, right? Also, if you have stuff like social media, and again, I was talking to Mark about this in the thing. He's looking at resumes. What are you doing on the side? What projects are you doing? What hobbies do you have? If you don't have the actual experience in your current job, you're only pulling cable and you're trying to become an AV technician, but you're one of the people, put that on there. It's okay because it shows you have an interest in that. it shows that you have those skill set. It also shows that you have a community-based mind. It kind of helps sometimes. It just does. Not necessarily because it's religion, but because you're volunteering your time. Volunteering your time. And then, and here's my final tip for resumes. Make sure that when you create the file and you save the name that's something that makes sense. Like if I was writing a resume, I would save the file name as Charles_Bowser_resume. Don't just save it as resume, because that way when you email it, if it gets put in a folder by the HR manager, and they go, oh man, what was that one guy that I wanted? It was Charles something. They can scan through the file directory. Go, maybe it's this guy. Ding, and pull it up. There you go. So there's my tips for you. Right. Next question comes from Greg in St. Pete, and says, Greg has said, I attended a class recently where the instructor talked about the cone of protection concerning the exposure to lightning. What is that? It's funny whenever I hear cone of protection, I always think of Get Smart. It shows you how old I am, right? Because they had that cone. I think they called it cone of protection. That clear plastic bell that would come down over Max and his boss. And when it would come down, it never worked, right? It'd go down, come up, go down, come up. It was funny. Great series. When it come down, so theoretically, nobody outside the cone. It was a cone of silence. That's what it was. Nobody could actually hear you, right? So the cone of protection and the lightning protection rule. The cone of protection, think about an ice cream cone. It's narrow at the bottom. It's wide at the top. If you take that cone and you invert it and put the narrow end at the top of the building or the top of a mass of the building, anything that's in that circle is generally considered protected, meaning lightning will most likely strike the building before it's going to strike anything in that. Now, if you got things inside that cone of protection, like chain link fence or telephone posts or stuff like that, those can attract attention, attract the lightning to strike there. But more often than not, it's going to strike the tallest object, which would be that building. The circumference of the circle of that cone of protection is equal to 2 times the height of the tallest part of the building. So that way you can kind of figure out what that is. Now, if you want more information on lightning protection systems, you can go to the NFPA 780. There's actually a way that you can get free access to NFPA articles. I'm working on a video to do that, but if you're interested in that, shoot me an email and I will forward that to you. The NFPA 780 basically covers lightning protection systems, and it defines exposed as above ground and outside of the zone of protection. And like I said, there are some things that can cause still happening there. Some people try to tell you lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. Oh, yes, it does. The Space Needle in Seattle gets struck by lightning about 40 times every year. It will strike twice in the same place all the time. The cool thing about the NFPA 780 is there's a risk assessment guide inside of it. And that risk assessment guide helps you estimate the risk of loss because of lightning strikes, right? And it's in there. It's already, all you gotta do is use it. Now, some of the things it's going to do is it's going to encompass things like what is the type of the building, right? What is the lightning frequency? What type of lightning do I have a year? Look up, go to the old Google machine and type in thunderstorm days a year. There's a map that you can pull off in NOAA, which will show you how many thunderstorm days you have out of the year. If you have thunder, you have lightning. I live in West Central Florida. We just lived through hurricane whatever. I can't keep track of them all the time. And we were well out of the issue for the hurricane, but we were on what's called the dirty side of the hurricane, which has a lot of tornado possibilities and abnormal weather. I forgot what's going with that. Lightning protection. Oh, yeah, lightning protection. So here in West Central Florida, I range somewhere between 80 and 100 thunderstorm days a year. There's other places that have less. You can look on that map and see exactly what they all are. I think the lowest is on the west coast of the U.S. Some parts of California have 5 or fewer thunderstorm days a year. So that's pretty cool. You also want to look at the relative location. You also want to look at the occupancy and the contents of that building. And also, what are the strikes? What are the consequences of a lightning strike? Lightning hits the ground up to, half a mile away from you. It can still cause damage to your electronics in your house. Electronics, solid state stuff, very sensitive to sweeps. Very sensitive to sweeps, right? Let me see. Let's go. Those are the only questions I had tonight. So it was kind of a slow week for questions. So let's see what Muhammad asks us. He says, I do have a question about the RCDD. Is it true that 35 to 40% of questions are on project management after version 14? Muhammad, I don't know the answer to that. But, I do have some contacts at Bixby. So I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll reach out to them and I'll ask them if they have that resource for that. Because I don't know that answer off the top of my head, but I will get it for you. Okay. I will get that for you. Make sure you tune in next Thursday night for the answer to that. Okay. Any other questions? Because that was the only questions I had. We only have one question in there tonight. So no questions. I'll give you guys another couple of seconds. Have you listened to the latest podcast? So I hope you did. Got some interesting stuff coming up. I got an interview coming up. I'm interviewing it right after. That's why I got to get up exactly at 6:30. I can't hang around too much late tonight. And I've got an interview with a safety guy, to talk about confined spaces. I got an interview lined up with someone to talk about VoIP. Right? If you want to be interviewed on the show, you want to be a guest on the podcast, you got something interesting that you want to get out there, go to www.bit.ly/LTC guest. bit.ly/LTC GUEST guest. And just fill out the application. And then, it comes to me automatically. I'll look at it and boom, we can, if I think there's an interest in the audience, we can do that. Can you touch on your interviewing? Can you touch on your interview? You mean like being interviewed for a job? Is that what you mean, Shotzi? Oh, you are. Oh, yeah, I already did that. You already talked about it. One thing I mentioned this in that podcast when I talked to Mark. When you're being interviewed, they're obviously feeling you out to see if you'd be a good match for the company, technical skills wise and personality wise and company mindset wise. You're also interviewing that company. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. If there's something that you're passionate about, for example, community service, stuff like that, ask them. What are you guys doing? What are you doing to be a good corporate citizen? What's a good career path for most people within this company, right? You're interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. They don't have an advantage over you. And that's what happens. A lot of people get nervous because they think, oh my God, I'm being interviewed. And then they kind of lock up, right? No, go in there, charge, take names and kick butt. You're interviewing them. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? It is 6:29. You got a few seconds before I log us out. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Very cool. See everybody next Thursday night. Yeah, make sure. No. Well, I'm actually on the road next Thursday. I will schedule a thing next Thursday, and I will let you know later in the week if, in fact, it will go, unless you see a notice as it doesn't come, because I am teaching out of town that week. So I'm not sure it'll be my first trip on the road in quite a while. So good night, everybody. Until next time, be safe.